Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fundamental. Finding your way, maybe unleashing your potential, and how it all seems to connect back to, well, problems.
Problems, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Usually the last thing we think we need more of,
Exactly.
but the material we're looking at today, it suggests maybe problems aren't the roadblocks we think they are. Maybe they're actually the path itself.
That's the core idea. Our source for this deep dive is the Find Your Way discussion guide by Carly Fiorina, and it offers a really distinct take on navigating life leadership, too.
hmm
So our mission is really to unpack the key ideas here, figure out what it really means to find purpose, unlock potential, especially if we look at life through this problem-solving lens.
And right off the bat, the guide sets up this fascinating contrast. It basically argues that living life based on a strict plan,
Mm-hmm.
that destination mindset, ticking boxes, it often just
Well, or
fails.
it's too rigid.
Yeah. And it suggests true fulfillment comes more from walking a path. And that path is built less on checklists and more on, well, hard work and really engaging with the problems you find along the way.
Okay, let's dig into that because it feels a bit backward at first. So the first big idea is this foundation. Purpose and problems. The source puts it pretty strongly. It says we are created on purpose for a purpose.
And that purpose, it defines it as to solve meaningful problems.
Which is, like you said, kind of a flip. We naturally want to run from problems, right? See them as enemies, things that cause hassle or pain,
hmm
avoidance.
But this guide is saying, no, they're the reason we're here. They're the opportunities for growth, the way we actually contribute something.
And it uses Carly Fiorina's own life, her journey, as a kind of illustration. It talks about childhood fears, how her faith changed quite dramatically over time. Initially seeing God as maybe a bit distant, like a super CEO sort of figure.
Yeah, I saw that super CEO analogy. And then moving towards a much deeper, more personal connection that was really forged through some incredibly tough times, through loss and challenges.
Right, and these weren't minor things. Losing her mother unexpectedly, then her father, her own fight with breast cancer, and just the profound tragedy of losing her daughter, Lori.
Absolutely devastating experiences.
Yeah.
And the guide touches on how faith can be, well, reshaped or even deepened through that kind of suffering. It mentions specific moments like praying the Lord's Prayer, something she'd done since childhood, suddenly feeling completely different, having new weight,
Mm-hmm.
or seeing maybe signs of a more personal God in the order and precision of science and tech. It mentions Einstein, even GPS, as examples of things that felt like evidence of something bigger at play.
And that story about her husband, Frank, finding Lori's old Father's Day cards years later, just before Father's Day, that's incredibly powerful.
It is. And the guide presents that as a key moment, something that helped restore Frank's faith, and maybe reconnected Carly's own faith too, leading her to find leadership lessons even in the Gospels.
So these really deep personal trials, they seem to underpin this idea that life isn't just about the time you have.
Exactly. The source connects it all to this idea that what really matters, what you measure life by, is love, moments of grace, and positive contributions. And solving problems becomes a primary way you make those positive contributions.
Okay, so if problems are our purpose and the path involves tackling them, why are we often so, resistant? Why do we run the other way? What actually stops us from leaning into problems?
Well, the guide identifies 4 specific pitfalls, 4 common traps that keep problems from getting solved and leave us feeling kind of stuck or like we're not making a difference.
All right, let's break those down. What's the first big trap?
The first one is called presumption of innocence. The underlying idea is abdication. The motto is basically, not my problem.
Okay, so you see it, maybe you even get it, but you just choose not to get involved.
That's it exactly. It's that classic, not my circus, not my monkeys feeling. You're aware, maybe you even disapprove, but you don't step up. You stay on the sidelines.
Yeah, okay, that definitely happens. Refusing to engage. What's trap number 2?
Number 2 is rush to judgment. This one is about misidentification. The motto here is something like, oh, I know exactly how to fix that. Said maybe a bit too fast.
Ah, so the opposite extreme. Instead of ignoring it, you jump in thinking you've got the magic bullet.
Precisely. Often driven by maybe a bit of presumption, maybe pride. You charge ahead with the solution before you've really diagnosed the root cause. You might just be treating a symptom.
And that could even make things worse, I suppose.
It absolutely can, if you haven't done the groundwork to really understand what's happening underneath.
Okay, so don't ignore it, but don't rush in blindly either. What's the third pitfall?
Pitfall number 3 is failure to launch. This is procrastination. The motto, I just don't know where to start.
Oof, That one feels very familiar. Feeling overwhelmed, maybe.
Right. Or maybe the path isn't crystal clear. You might see the problem, you might even have some ideas, but taking that first actual step feels too hard. So you delay
Yep.
and delay.
The problem just sits there.
Yep. Inertia wins,
Right.
or maybe just a lack of will to push through that initial difficulty.
And the fourth and final pitfall.
The last one is called scarcity mentality. The guide calls this resignation. And the motto is the most negative. This problem will never be resolved.
Wow, so even if you're perfectly positioned to help, you've already decided it's impossible.
That's it. It's that deep-seated pessimism. Doom and gloom. The system's rigged, the problem's too big, it's just futile. So why even bother trying? You resign yourself to failure before you even begin.
So those four: abdication, rushing in, procrastination, and resignation, they really cover a lot of ground, don't they, in terms of why we avoid problems?
They really do. And the guide also touches on some underlying reasons why we retreat like this. Things like fear of change, maybe just lack of motivation. It mentions slacktivism, too.
Ah, talking about problems online but not actually doing anything.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And sometimes it's just genuinely not knowing how to proceed, a lack of know-how.
So it really emphasizes that tackling problems means overcoming some significant internal hurdles first.
Definitely. Which leads nicely into the next part of the guide's path, the pursuit of the path itself. How do we develop the inner stuff needed to actually move towards problems and solve them well?
Right, and this is where the guide says something important. How you solve problems matters just as much as actually solving them.
Yes. And it all starts with choice. There's a powerful line in there. It's something like, to stop choosing is to start dying.
Wow.
Yeah, it argues that life, leadership, it really boils down to the choices we make day in, day out.
And it zeroes in on four key character traits. Traits, it says, are completely 100% within our control to develop. The first is courage.
Defined pretty simply as the ability to put fear in its proper place. Not necessarily eliminating fear, but managing it.
Okay.
The source uses the parable of the wise and foolish builders here. Courage is like the foundation, right? What lets you build something that lasts, something that can handle the storms life throws at you.
And it's not just for the big moments, is it?
No, exactly. It notes that courage isn't just for that initial leap. It's for the long haul. For that sustained effort, like rolling the ball uphill day after day.
That makes sense. The daily grind requires courage, too. Okay, what's the second trait?
Character. This is framed as integrity in action, how it shows up over time. The guide connects this to the three servants parable, about responsibility and using the gifts or opportunities you're given.
And wasn't there a really moving story linked to character in the guide?
Yes, a really powerful one about meeting cancer sufferers who, even facing immense pain and uncertainty, showed incredible character, choosing hope, determination, grace, despite everything. And the source really stresses that building character takes work. It means carving out time for real self-reflection, asking yourself the hard questions. What are my values? How am I really spending my time? What contributions am I actually making?
So, courage to face fear, character built on integrity. What's number three?
Collaboration. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The ability to work well with other people towards a shared goal. The guide mentions the prodigal son parable here. Maybe thinking about the father's incredible welcome or the complicated dynamic between the brothers. Relationships need grace, understanding, work.
And didn't Fiorina offer some very direct advice on this?
She did. Some really practical stuff like never hide your light under a bushel basket. Basically, don't hold back your talents, but also, critically, never get a chip on your shoulder.
Ah, so be confident but not arrogant.
Exactly. Be willing to share power, share credit. Recognizing, as the source puts it quite bluntly, that nothing of lasting value happens with an individual person acting alone.
That feels undeniably true. Real change, big achievements, they're almost always team efforts.
Okay, and the fourth trait.
The fourth is creatively seeing possibilities. This is about looking beyond the immediate circumstances, especially the difficult ones, and imagining a way forward.
Finding hope, maybe.
Finding possibilities. The source points to the persistent widow parable, her relentless pursuit of justice, even against official indifference, as an example of someone creating possibility through sheer persistence. But it's not just wishful thinking, is it?
No, definitely not. The guide is clear. It defines this as realism plus optimism. You have to see the situation for what it is, warts and all, but you also need to maintain the belief that something positive can be done.
Okay. Realism plus optimism.
Yeah. And it shares a story about a colleague, Jeffrey, using these kinds of problem-solving tools. this mindset to help a young man named Greg who was in a really, really bad spot, lost his job, lost his phone, kicked out of his place. Just total chaos.
Wow.
And Jeffrey's approach, applying this framework even to that personal crisis, showed how you can find pathways even when things seem utterly bleak.
And the advice is to start small with this, not try to fix everything at once.
Exactly. Start with the problems that are nearest and dearest to you. Your family, your local community, your workplace. Don't feel pressured to solve world hunger tomorrow. The guide compares it to Jesus' ministry, starting very small, very local, and then the impact ripples outwards.
Yeah.
Like tossing a pebble into a still pond.
Okay, so develop these inner strengths, courage, character, collaboration, creativity, and apply them starting close to home. Which brings us, I guess, to the promise of the path, having a practical way to actually do this.
Yes, exactly. The guide offers a tool for this. Carly Fiorina's leadership framework. It's presented as a structured way to tackle problems, especially useful when you feel stuck or overwhelmed.
Okay, a framework. How does that work? What are the parts?
It's got 4 main components. First, goal and strategy. Simple enough. What specifically are you trying to achieve? What's the overall aim?
Define the mission. Got it. What's second?
Second, supporting steps. Okay, once you know the goal, what are the concrete actions you need to take to get there? Breaking it down into manageable steps.
The actual to-do list, more or less. And third?
Tracking steps.
Yeah.
How are you going to measure your progress? How will you know if you're actually moving towards the goal? The guide uses that old saying, what gets measured gets done.
Right. You need feedback. Accountability. Okay, and the fourth part?
Fourth is shared expectations. This is about making sure everyone involved is on the same page. What are the intended outcomes? Who's responsible for what? It's about alignment and clarity.
And the guy uses a really, maybe unexpected example to show this framework in action.
It does, yeah. It applies the framework to Jesus launching the early church.
Really? How does that work?
Well, the goal and strategy: make disciples of all nations. The supporting steps: things like go, baptize, teach, receive the Holy Spirit's power. The tracking: it mentions that those being saved were added daily. And the shared expectations: be witnesses, obey commands, rely on the Spirit.
Huh. Framing it like that, it does fit.
And the guide kind of points to it as, a pretty successful project, still running after 2,000 plus years. It shows the framework isn't just for business plans. It can apply to any kind of mission, any problem, big or small, personal or collective.
Right. Apply it to your own challenges.
Exactly. And the payoff for consistently using this kind of approach, according to the source, isn't just solved problems. It's also about achieving more emotional steadiness. It talks about flattening the wave.
Flattening the wave, meaning less drama.
Yeah, basically. Instead of those huge emotional highs and lows getting tossed around by every perceived crisis.
Which the guide calls a colossal waste of energy.
Right. Instead of that, you develop more resilience, a more predictable emotional state, because you're proactively engaged in making things better, not just constantly reacting.
And success isn't just about finishing the steps in the framework.
No, the guide really circles back to making those positive contributions daily. And those contributions are measured by showing up with those 4 traits: courage, character, collaboration, and creatively seeing possibilities. It's the daily choices that build your potential over time.
It really reinforces that pebble in the pond idea we mentioned. Your consistent, maybe seemingly small actions, they really can add up and create significant change.
Absolutely. And the guide gives a really powerful, real-world example of this ripple effect.
Yeah.
The One Woman Initiative.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
Well, this initiative was actually sparked by a tragedy: the assassination of Benazir Bhutto, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan. A huge loss for democracy and women's rights.
Okay.
But the response wasn't just grief or resignation. It was action. This initiative brought together governments, businesses, foundations to grant over $500,000 directly to local grassroots women's organizations.
Wow. Where were these organizations?
In several Muslim-majority countries, places like Azerbaijan, Egypt, India, Pakistan, the Philippines. And the focus was super practical, helping women with legal rights, political participation, economic opportunities, right there at the local level.
So it's a perfect example of starting small, empowering individuals or local groups and having that impact spread outwards.
Exactly. It shows how, even in the face of terrible events, this problem-solving approach can create real, tangible good.
It really lands that point. And the guide closes with a quote from Goethe, doesn't it?
It does. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. we must do.
The call to action.
Absolutely. It's threaded through the whole thing. Don't just understand these ideas. Use them. Apply them.
It suggests that even when times feel really challenging, perilous, as the guy says, that very difficulty can be the motivation, the fuel for solving problems, starting right where you are.
Because, as the guide argues throughout, you have potential. And problems are roadblocks to that potential. They are the very things you use to unlock it and make your unique contribution.
So we've journeyed from seeing life not as a rigid plan, but as this dynamic path you build by tackling problems. We've looked at the traps that stop us, the inner strengths we need to cultivate, a practical framework for action, and the potential for real impact.
The pretty profound reframing, really. It shifts problems from being enemies of happiness to being the essential ingredients for finding purpose and living a meaningful life. It puts the focus squarely on our internal choices and contributions, not just reacting to external stuff we can't control.
It definitely makes you think differently about the challenges you face, doesn't it? Or the issues you see out there. Are you, stuck in one of those pitfalls, abdicating, rushing, procrastinating, resigning?
hmm Or are you choosing to step onto that path, ready to engage, even if it's just with something small, something close by?
Which really brings us back to that final, very pointed question the source leaves us with. A question for you, listening right now.
What else are you going to do with your one and only wild and precious life?
Think about that. What problems are right there, nearest and dearest to you? How could you start applying some of these ideas, courage, character, collaboration, seeing possibilities, maybe even sketching out that framework to make a positive contribution starting today, right where you are?
The path is always there. The choice is whether or not to start walking it.